Finding the right area can make or break your investment. Get it wrong and you'll struggle to make any money. Get it right and you can make a fortune. Today, I'm showing you exactly how to find the best areas for high rental yields and long-term growth. Ultimately, there are two golden rules for picking the best areas. You need high yields, which are going to be your short-term profits, and you need capital growth potential, which is building your long-term wealth. And too many investors focus on one or the other, and ultimately, you need both. Step one, you've got to look at the numbers first. So what is yield? Yield is monthly rent times 12 divided by a purchase price times 100. And that's going to be as a percentage. For example, let's say you've got £500 a month in rent. I know that's quite low, but you times that by 12, that's £6,000. 6,000 divided by the purchase price of 100,000, that is going to be 6%, or it'll come out 0.06 times about 100, 6% yield. That's just as an example, but yield isn't deducting anything off. It's not purchase price plus stamp duty plus, it's like, no, it's the purchase price times 100. Yearly rent divided by purchase price times by 100. Target areas with 7%. That's what we target in our areas. Obviously, it will be decided on what your location is. For example, if you're in central London, which I don't recommend right now, if I'm completely honest, the yield's likely going to be lower. If you're in the arse end of a mining village in the northeast, 7% is going to be a terrible yield. But you want strong capital growth areas with 7% gross yields, you are spot on. So where do you find this? Well, usually you're going to look on Zoopla and Rightmove for your searching your average rents. So what I'm really looking for is market appraisals, market comparables. And so I will go on Rightmove, and often I'm looking at not only what is available for a like-to-like property on Rightmove, but I'm also going to be utilizing what's already let out. And that's going to tell me what people are going for and what they're willing to pay. Then what I like to do is I like to use pieces of software such as Landlord, and I look at the yield calculators. So it does some area analysis and it will tell me the average in this area is this. For example, the average in my area is a 6.5% yield. And the reason it's an average of 6.5% is because the prices are naturally higher, and then I try and secure them at a 7% yield, which means I'm getting a good price for an investor and myself. Pro tip on this, don't just chase high yields. A lot of people think like, when somebody tells me about, I've got a property with an 11% yield, I don't need to hear anything else. If that's a buy-to-let property, I'm telling you, it's a terrible investment area. There is no chance in hell that you are finding an 11% buy-to-let in an area that is not rough or low capital growth or different types of tenant types that I'm just not looking for. So I'm really looking at the number as an indication. Same as in, for example, Leeds, in a really good area of Leeds, and somebody goes, I've got one with 9%. So it's very unlikely, very unlikely. So step number two, we're looking for growth potential. So key indicators of future growth. And this is where your real wealth comes in, by the way. It's not the monthly rental income. That's nice from a cash flow point of view. If something happens to the property, great, like the boiler goes, nice to have it all covered. But your wealth from property doesn't actually come from your tenant. It comes from the value of properties going up. Naturally, demand of property in the UK is way higher than the supply by about 1.5 million properties. And when that many people, more than the supply, want to actually do business, prices have to go up, and you meet in the middle, which is called the supply demand curve. Okay, and we really want to hit this equilibrium. So how do we look for these opportunities? Because it's not like, do you know what, this area is going to have 10% growth next year. You can predict it based on information. So we're looking for regeneration projects. So you want to check your local council websites. Job and business growth. So look at new employers in the area, but I also use property data to analyze what is the employment rate in the area. I'm looking at transport links, connectivity, is there new train stations? What's the bus stop into town look like? How far is it? Supply and demand. Are there more renters than available properties in the area? And that's very hard to measure, but in general, if I go and search on Rightmove for how many properties are for rent, and then I tick the advanced box saying include subject to on the lets, I'm looking for at least 40% of the available market to be rented. And the reason for that is you might go, that's not a lot. Well, they get taken off very quickly with renters. So if 40% or more are rented in the area or subject to, It's a very, very strong market. And by the way, here's a nice little tip for you. If major developers are investing in the area, it's a sign it's about to boom. If you think about someone like Legal & General, an insurance company who are investing in the hundreds of millions, think about how much money they have spent on market research on the area. It's like when a hotel goes up, like Hilton. It's not random. They've spent tens of thousands of pounds on research to know that there is the demand there. It's a very good indicator for success. Remember, if you want to be successful, follow those that are doing it already. Step number 3, compare different UK hotspots. So an example of areas with high yields and growth potential. So Manchester, really strong yields, loads of business growth there. It has slowed down a lot nowadays because it's on the back end of that growth, but it is still growing, you know, lots of cranes, which is great. Birmingham's kind of a weird one because it's not north, it's not south, but it's got sort of that blended price gap. So it is huge investment for Birmingham, but there's a lot of regeneration, the HS2 trains, decent capital appreciation overall, dependent on the area. Liverpool is one of the UK's highest yielding cities as an average. Doesn't mean the best investment area, but it is solid. I really like Liverpool. It's not my pick just because the capital growth is a lot lower than I really want it to be over the long term, but it's a nice high yielding city. Newcastle is obviously great for a rental market and it's still quite undervalued. And of course, my favourite. And it doesn't take a genius if you've been watching me. West and South Yorkshire is my hot pick right now. Has been for a while. And it's kind of the best way to describe Yorkshire for me is where Manchester was 5 years ago. And if you look at the economics, which I'm not going to geek out on this video because I'll get told off, but that economics is really exciting for me. And for me, we're not at the start. We're sort of 20, 30% up that curve, whereas Manchester's like 90% up that curve. So Manchester still has growth, but Leeds and surrounding has a lot more, which is what excites me. I'll just give you an example on the screen right now of a postcode of one of the first places that I moved to in Leeds, which was number 2 Haddon Place, LS4 2JU. And if we go on Landlord here, we can look at it and see the capital growth that's happened over the last 10 years, which is when I first moved into the property. Not just from a rental point of view, but check out the capital growth. Crazy. Step number 4, avoid common mistakes. I'm just going to fast track this for you. Number 1, investing in a high yield area with no long-term growth. And I don't want to slag off the Northeast because the Northeast is really good. There are several locations in the Northeast that sort of had this temporary bump because of COVID. And people are like, yeah, fast growth. It's like, no, just ridiculously cheap. People had excess funds and they ploughed it there. Don't focus on just high yields. You want capital growth. Number 2, buying in an up-and-coming area too early. If I could give an example of this, Beeston. Beeston is in the south of Leeds. That is a phenomenal investment area and has been a phenomenal investment area for the last 5-6 years. To give you an idea, 10 years ago, you couldn't sell a property in Beeston for 60 grand. Like genuinely, Beeston South Leeds is a bit rough, very rough. And it's like, it would be up and coming, but it had been up and coming for about 450,000 years. You could genuinely, I knew people with portfolios that could really struggle to sell for 50 grand. Now you go to Beeston, everything's over 100 grand. Everything. That is huge capital growth. And in fact, it's way more than that. So what you want to do is, a lot of people like to be, I'm ahead of the whole curve. It's like, no, I don't like to be ahead of the curve. I like to be a year into the curve. I don't want to be too late, like my opinion is Manchester's getting there. I also don't want to be too early, which maybe, I'm not going to name locations so you might get offended, but this is what we want to do. Mistake number 3, ignoring rental demand. Yield means nothing if you can't actually rent it. And you actually see this a lot in high yielding areas where it's like 12% yield. It's like, yeah, but the tenant you attract's not great. You're going to get the house trashed, and actually finding a suitable candidate to rent it actually is not going to be too viable. And so in those properties in the highest yield areas, I'm not saying everyone, by the way, but a lot of them will actually struggle to rent it out and get a paying tenant in the long term. By the way, finding what makes a great area takes time, research, and the right strategy, which is why we set up Aspire Portfolio in the first place. So I'm not saying this is a get-rich-quick solution, but if you want a shortcut shortcut your success and actually be able to pick the right areas, then what we're opening up is some free one-to-one strategy sessions. So if you've got the money to invest in a buy-to-let property, we typically work with people with 100K or more, but certainly enough for your first buy-to-let property. Put portfolio in the comments and we'll do a discovery call to figure out where you're at and where you want to get to, and if we can help you build your portfolio. And as part of that, we will guide you on what we think are going to be the best investment areas for you. Which brings me to my final challenge that people come up against is you try to do everything yourself. So the reason I set up Aspire Portfolio originally wasn't actually for other investors. I wanted to start building a team around me that could source great investment opportunities for me. And then naturally, as I was investing more and more, I needed refurbishments. And eventually, before I knew it, I had the sourcing company, I had the refurbishment company, I had the lettings company, so that we could do everything for you hands-free. And so it's a really good way, even if you're looking to scale your portfolio on your own eventually, get the first couple with your hand held along the way, and we can help you build that portfolio. But even if you're not using us, don't try and do everything on your own. Get a good network around you. Get your A team together that can actually deliver the results, because it cannot be you that finds the deal, negotiates it, gets it refurbed, gets it through legals, gets the finance, gets the property let out, finding the tenant. You need to find a power team around you that can support. So I hope this has been really valuable. If you like this type of video, you want to learn more about property and business, make sure to hit subscribe and the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.